Hi guys, it's about 1:45 Eastern. It's about 11:45 Central on this on this Tuesday, August 14th, 2012, Monday, August 13th, Central. So, I'm going to be making 3 videos today. One that has that talks about some of the comments that people are making, particularly two people in general. And then the second video will be about generally questions and comments, weather related, not necessarily directed at me or my forecast, um, but so that's essentially what we're gonna do. And then my third forecast will be my third video will be about the the forecast across the country. So, this will be probably a long video. I would say maybe about at the most 16 minutes. So pause for a minute, grab a coffee, grab some drinks, because I want to answer some people, and this may kind of get you to know more where I'm coming from when it comes in terms of my forecasts and my my strategy on forecasting. So we're gonna start off with a comment from Norfolk Weather. He says 300. He generally told me about how inaccurate my forecast was when it came in terms of what could have been Gordon, and I get that it was terrible. Okay, so I think what he was trying to get at, I think underlying, he wanted to know why I'm doing this, why I'm forecasting 300 hours in advance when it's so far out. I mean, it's a common concern, and people probably could get pretty mad at me for doing that. So, what's my reasoning behind it? Okay? Well, particularly with that event, or with that particular storm, the reason why I made such a big deal out of it was because the GFS model, was consistently saying for a period of 5 or more days, actually 4 to 5 days, that we would get this particular storm affecting the East Coast. Okay, or at least coming close. Okay, and why is that such a big deal if a model is saying that? Well, I think I've mentioned several times that I value a consistency within a model very highly. So what that essentially means is that the question that runs into my mind is, and also hopefully many other forecasters, is, do I completely ignore what the model is saying because it is so far in advance? Or do I look at it and say, okay, let the people know what this particular model is saying, but make sure I make it understood that this is far in advance, okay, and that it is over 300 hours out. Okay, and that this could change. And that's what I try to do, and I hope I do it. Okay, I think I say that a lot. But if I don't, please correct me and tell me if I don't. But, and maybe it's something within my voice when I'm talking about it that makes people seem to believe that I don't think it's just a possibility and that I think it is more gonna happen. Maybe it's because I have that, sound in my voice that, okay, this, there's this big thing and it's going to become this, the reason why I do that is because I want to let people know, okay, and yes, maybe I do get a little bit carried away, but, it's just to let people know what could happen, and I value highly, letting people know the possibility of danger that could happen in the future. And I'd rather let people know that and have them keep it under their hat rather than wait until the last second to say something, and have only maybe at the most a few days to get prepared for something that could happen. So I try to do that, and I try to enforce that this is a possibility. So and that's what I'm trying to get across here. So so when it comes in terms of over 300 hours, that's what I try to do. Now, during the winter, and he said have fun forecasting during the winter, I think he was trying to make a connection there between what I did with this particular storm and possible storms that we get during the winter. Well, let me say something here. I don't particularly like the GFS when it comes in terms of forecasting snowfall. And what I generally use it for, the GFS, is more for track. I don't use it more like storm tracks. Generally, the general track that a storm is going to potentially take, like a nor'easter, or is it going to go down through the south and then, go out to sea, or is it going to go through, the Midwest, or where is it going to go? That's the essential, that's what I like using the GFS for, particularly over 300 hours. And especially during the winter time. Okay, you want to know the way that the snowstorm is going to move. So that's what I try to use it for. Not necessarily for predicting snowfall amounts. Okay, I like using the NAM or the Canadian more for that. But I have found that the GFS was more right than the NAM or the Canadian. So what I try to do often is take a combination of all three of those models and use it as a prediction for snowfall or a track, or whether we're going to get a certain event. That's what I try to do. So that's my answer to Norfolk Weather. I hope I hope that cleared things up a little bit, and that's my response to that. Now, PSU Weather Nerd, this was very intense, and I did remove some of his comments, actually all of his comments, because I don't know the tone that he was saying these things in. If I knew the tone, then maybe I would be a little bit more comfortable of keeping up the comments, but I don't know the tone, so I had to remove them. So, but it doesn't mean I didn't particularly value his comments highly. It's just, they were a little uncomfortable for me. Okay, but it doesn't mean I don't want you to continue giving me your knowledge, because he did tell me he has his bachelor's degree in meteorology, and he plans on getting his bachelor's. Or masters, I'm sorry. Masters. But again, I'm not in college. I am in high school. Okay, and everything I'm doing up to this particular point has been based upon knowledge I know about weather and my own research. Okay, I do plan on going to college for meteorology. That's what I'm gonna do. But at this point, I don't have the same knowledge that he does. So if I'm not 100% like how he would forecast, or please understand that I'm not as experienced as you are, and as I continue to move on with my education in meteorology, I will get better. Okay, because I'll learn certain things at this particular point that I don't know yet. So, and that will make my forecasting better. So that's what I'm trying to get at this particular point, PSU Weather Nerd. But he did mention a lot that I was wish casting. And I could see why, because I did put my region under the gun for the worst snow and for the worst, you know, cold, and it does seem like I'm wish casting, but in reality I'm not. Okay, and let me tell you why I'm not. Okay, overall, when you have a pattern like what's going to come up this year, I looked at analog years to make sure I was doing what I wanted to make sure that what I was doing wasn't inaccurate. I try to use my resources that I have, and I don't have that many, okay? And I'd like to get more, but, there's certain things that I don't have available to me at this particular point. So what I do is I looked at all of the resources I have at this point, and I tried to look up the analog years, particularly 2009, 2002, and 1976. Okay, so, and this was the winters of 2009, 2010, the winters of 2002, 2003, and the winters of 1976, 1977. So, those 3 years are the major There could have been a couple other ones that there was that I'm missing, but at this particular point, those are the ones that I vividly remember. And all those years have something very much in common, and it is that they all establish cold through the Ohio River Valley, down through the deep south, and up into the northeast. And they all have a track for snowstorms, something like this. Okay, and I'm trying to go as quick as I can here because I only have 3 minutes left. They have a track something like this when it comes in terms of storms. It could be like that. It could be more like this. Okay, it could be a little bit. I've even seen tracks that do something like this. Okay, where they start out in California, they form, they go like this, and they come up the coast. I mean, there's several different tracks that I've seen, but they all give the Northeast, usually when you get this sort of negative NAO, cold PDO, and cold AO, all of those tend, and also weak El Nino, though that combination tends to create more cold in the east and the Ohio River Valley, and gives a very active storm track for the East Coast. Okay, common example, the winter of 2009-2010, that gave the East Coast, particularly the major cities, between 70 to 80, maybe even over 80 inches of snow. Now, this is Weather Advance, a website that I may actually have, and that actually I think I am involved in it, but I got to get the login information first. But I didn't make this forecast because I wasn't part of the team when this was made. This was made on the 15th of July. But actually, I didn't even look at this when I made my forecast. I used it based upon the CFS model, also on similar years that we had. Normally you have this sort of situation. The only part of this map that I don't agree with is that down here this should be around average, and then up here this should be drier than average and warm. But overall, I agree with this practically fairly much. But essentially what I'm trying to say here is that I'm not the only one saying this, and I'm trying my hardest to be as accurate as I can, and again with the record stuff here, I'm putting it out as a possibility. I didn't etch it in stone, I believe. So that's essentially where I'm coming from at this particular point. I hope you guys, although I may have been a little bit, too upset with your comments. I hope you continue to watch, and I hope this video helped you realize where I'm coming from when it comes in terms of forecasting. So I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I still have a couple of other things to post, so I hope you guys watch that as well. Take care, everybody.